Hello, and welcome to Straight Talk for Burnt Out Mums. And today I have got Steph McCann, and she is a health coach. Welcome, Steph. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for the invite, Kirsty. Great to be here.
You're more than welcome. So, let's get straight down to it, Steph. What is it that you do, and how did you get into your role?
So I work as a health coach, and a health coach is someone that looks at the person and their life holistically. So it's not just about any one thing like diet or stress or your career. So when I meet a client, I sit down and we have a good deep dive, 2.5 hour session. And I go through basically how you were born to the way you're living right now, all your relationships, what you do for a living, the food you ate as a child, the food you eat now, your habits, your goals, your aspirations, and your regard for the environment. So it's a very holistic process as a health coach, because everything could be taken in and out of context. You know, you could have, the perfect fitness regime, I use that in air commas, but you might not have very many friends in your life. You might be all obsessed with being this image, but no one's feeding your soul. So it's all about bringing balance and fullness to the way we live. Contribution. So that's a health coach role. It's and the way I work is very holistic. So I'm trained in nutrition, exercise, and how this all impacts the body. So we take that model and I superimpose it into the people that I help most. And I mainly support single women, single professional women, whether they're mums or not. But I do support men too. And where I am now is born from my own ignorance of how my body worked. I was perimenopausal, right close up to menopause, but I didn't know that. Had no clue what all these words meant. Now, there is more and more and more coming into the fold about
Definitely.
how we're educated in this, but still a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear-mongering, a lot of bandwagoning. And what I try and do for people is keep things simple. And
that's what we like. We like simple, don't we? We like simple.
Love it.
But effective.
Simple. We need a bit of Janet and John in this bonkers world. We do, right? So I try and make it about them and their life and bring in some, real basic non-negotiables about learning to nourish better to whoever I'm dealing with. But I needed that information. I needed that nutritional, how are we wired? So went off to the College of Naturopathic Medicine, gave up my career flying as cabin crew, which was a job that just ravaged my body and brain. Fun, but my 49-year-old self went, right, time out, Steph. That's 26 years of that. This is really, it led me into my purpose and passion. And I had no idea it was just a curiosity about gut health that sparked it all off. And here we are.
And here we are. Amazing. So that must be exhausting. It must be exhausting, going back to you sort of saying the 2.5 hour session, that must be exhausting for the people that are going back over absolutely everything, but also exhausting for you, because you're having to listen to all of this and sort of take it all on board. But for that person that sat there with you, it must be a real relief to get everything out, but having to go back through it all and realizing that actually they thought they were healthy and then actually they weren't. It's it must be quite a challenging session, but a rewarding session all the same.
Absolutely. And it can feel tiring for both parties. And again, it's about how you're matching each other's energy. So I try and be neutral, engaging. I'm quite quiet. I'm asking questions, I'm writing, I'm listening. And it's like somebody verbally throwing up over you. Some people are just like, okay, can we just stop? Let's back up.
Yeah.
And it gives me time to process. Someone will say something to me like, well, this started back then. And I'm thinking, right, well, what else was going on in your life? Was there a traumatic emotional experience? So, everything that we do has cause and effect. So that's the tiring part for me, because I'm really actively listening.
Yeah.
And we get it all down, and I've got the bird's eye view of someone's life. And people feel it's a cathartic process. It's like, gosh, I've just sort of compacted my life story down in 2.5 hours, and it kind of feels good because it lets them process what they've just said. So then we break it down into, if I'm working with someone over, say, 90 days, we'll go, right, what's realistic? What's achievable? Let's get on the first rung of the ladder and let's get brilliant at that. Let's just focus on this. Because when you have a scattergun approach to, oh yeah, we can make you feel great and don't you worry about it and we'll do people just need one or two things to think about that's different outside of the regular routine, because the last thing I want to do is add on another layer of burnout for people, you know, or else
And this is what I say to my mums. Sometimes they come at me with a whole list of problems, and the way they speak to me, and you're probably very much the same, it is jumbled. You can see their brain is going crazy. So therefore, they're not actually being able to process anything. And what I say to them is stop. Either write it down or do something and take it step by step. Don't look at it as a whole. You look at it as a whole, you're going to get overwhelmed. You need to break things down, see what's easily achievable or easily manageable, and deal with that first, and then you move on to the next thing. Don't try and deal with it as a whole, because it's just too much, isn't it? It's just too much.
It really, we're so rewards based, you know, we're complex and simple creatures all in one go. And I think when you get a small win, and we talk about this a lot, don't we, it's important to go, oh, do you know what, I did that. And I'm going to give you an example here. Not everyone brushes their teeth twice a day. Even just achieving that second brush of teeth, whether it's morning or evening, but you'd be amazed. And I did a poll on this. Not everyone does. And it's sort of like, that's a big step for some people. You know, some people might look at that and go, oh, that's so trivial. But you know what? It's all about the person's journey, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and championing the wins along the way with them and going, that's great, because it's going to let you do X, Y, and Z. And it's verifying why they're doing something. There always has to be the why behind it, and how it's going to give them scope to do something else in their life and bring more ease, contentment, joy, control, all of those things. And so it starts off with the building blocks for sure.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the teeth brushing, because like you said, for some people, it's just a simple thing. I was taught I have to brush my teeth in the morning and in the evening. However, some people might not have been taught that. And actually, their anxiety later on in life might be about going to the dentist, then the fear of going to the dentist, and then the anxiety that causes them. And then they're portraying that onto their children or the people they're around. So actually, that one tiny thing that seems trivial to someone is actually a massive thing to somebody else, and it's causing a lot of issues in their life. So that's so true.
And the guilt that will bounce back, you know, you thinking, oh my God, have I been a bad mum because I haven't encouraged this? Because when you don't know, you don't know. I know there's a lot of information out there, but we're drowning in it, so we don't hear it, you know. And when you get pointed, good coaching and guidance, you're in a very non-judgmental way. It's brilliant, you know, it's really brilliant. And then it's personal to you, and then they share their story, and you just keep the little ripple effect that comes from it spreads out into, because people are always your advocate. If they're enjoying the process, they're telling other people, and that can only be a good thing for betterment for everyone.
And I like what you said there, that actually we have all this information around us. Yes, we do. Social media is great for some things, bad for others. You've got your phones with you all the time. But actually, what you just said is that you don't actually always hear it is so true, because I think people think that, oh, well, you're just being lazy, or you can't be bothered, or it's right there in front of you. But if you've got so much going on in your head or in life in general, you're not going to hear everything, are you? It's just, you're going to block some bits out. And I really like that. It's very, very true.
Yeah, I think my advice to people, and you probably say this to people you work with, Kirsty, is choose 2 or 3 people that you really like, that you really rate, that give you good information and kind of make you laugh a little bit. Because when you get honed down into some good things, we're all in some ways saying the same thing but in different ways.
Yes.
And it's about who resonates with you, who's really interested in, you know, for the goodness and the greaterness of mankind, if you like. I know that sounds a bit, you know, messiah-ish or evangelistic, but I think when you just get clear on 2 or 3, 4 sources maximum, cut out the rest. There's too many groups out there. There's too much yak. Cut the noise out. That's why we enjoy a bit of peace and quiet in nature, because you can hear yourself think.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I've been trying to do that myself, and I keep saying I've got to practice what I preach. And going out on dog walks, I'll not take my phone, because otherwise it's so easy to just say, oh, do you know, I'll go on a dog walk. I've got 45 minutes, an hour. I'm going to go on my phone and I'm going to respond to some emails, or I'm going to check in with a few different people. And actually, that's my self-care time. So I need to make sure that, yeah, I'm doing that as well. And it's so true. And I like also what you said about sticking to some people that you know are right for you. And when I first spoke to you, and I think I've said it to you before, you do a lot of videos on LinkedIn, and your voice is so calming, and it just really sort of chills me out, and it's lovely. But some people are like all the time, and actually it just blows my brain. And you are not going to be the coach for everybody. I am not going to be the coach for everybody, but you have to find someone that's right for you. And when you do, it's so easy then to, like you said, just offload and brain dump everything on top of them. And you're not going to get on with everybody. But actually, if you find somebody that you work well with, or I don't like the saying your tribe, but it's, you kind of find your tribe of people, and actually it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And it's funny, I like nice voices too. It's something that I always pick up on with people. And I think, there's certain voices I resonate to. Sometimes if I've got a bit of a busy mind when I go to bed at night, I'll put a calm sleep story on, and there's I'm like, oh my God, I'm just zoned out by the end of it, because it's the decibels, and it's just how it resonates in your head. Some people like an excitable voice and rah rah and come on, let's go, and we've got this, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and maybe you need that at different times in your life,
Yeah.
but really, I think, yeah, I just like that slower
My
pace.
my 8-year-old Arthur, he said to me the other day, "Oh, Mum, I'm going to go up to bed and watch a bit of TV. I'm feeling tired." I said, "Okay, mate. What are you going to watch then? Don't watch any of your silly like stuff on, like, that high pitched screeching programs that
Yeah.
they watch." He said, "Oh no,
Mm.
Mum. When I get like this, I've now found David Attenborough, and I listen to him because his voice is so soothing." And it's exactly what you said. So he then watches David Attenborough. We're a real animal loving family and environment, so he loves that sort of thing anyway. But he said it just chills me out, and he said, and I just fall asleep. So you are right, it does
It's
just
true, isn't it? I mean, we're so sensory, we can get caught up in certain aspects of life, but when we tune into feeling and sensation and how something makes us feel, and if we gravitate towards what tastes good, what sounds good, what looks good, all of these, when we become more sensory, it's just a more enjoyable experience of living.
Yeah.
It really, it's the simplest things. It's silly. It's just observations. I find myself observing and like looking at life through a fresh pair of eyes since I've gone into the coaching world,
Mm-hmm.
because we're seeing, we're looking, but we're not seeing, we're not processing. It's just we're skimming over our lives too much now, because there is convenience, too much convenience. So it lets us not be immersive in something, but it lets us get on with another job,
Yeah.
and we're not using the wonderful toolkit that's inside our hard skull the same way we would. So it's no wonder that there's a lot of cognitive issues coming up, whether it's ADHD, whether it's Alzheimer's, because our ancient brains are going, WTF, what is going on? What is going
Mm-hmm.
on? So
Mm-hmm.
it's no wonder.
So talk to us a little bit about brain health. That's what
Yeah,
gone.
I think there's we've been in a battle with the nutrition for, well, since really the 60s, 70s, where there was studies coming out. Fat was vilified, sugar was the industry that money was being pumped into. So, and a lot of your listeners will know this, to make something taste better, if we're removing fat, we're adding in other ingredients, and namely it's sugar in all its different forms to make it taste better.
Mm-hmm.
And we've noticed that the destruction that comes from too much sugar and poor sugar in all its versions, sweeteners and all sorts, has caused a lot of destruction. And I think to keep our operating system tip top, we need to be nourishing it with fat, and the good fats that our brain needs. So I talk to people a lot about omega-3s, Kirsty, and everybody thinks, oh, it's just from sources like oily fish. Now, not everyone likes fish, right? But
Me, I
there's
hate it.
no,
Yeah.
and it it's that, and that's okay. Not everybody does, and fine. But there's so many other ways we can get omega-3s into us. Foods like walnuts and chia seeds and all of these things can keep your brain operating really well, because I'm working with two clients who, one is very advanced with dementia, and it's about as much as we can do to now slow down the rate of
Yeah.
attrition.
Yeah.
And they're, one client's in 60s, one client's in their 80s, and the one in the 80s is newly diagnosed. And we've got her on a great full fat diet. And actually, in 4 weeks, it's like watching a little plant come back to life that's been dehydrated and it's looking a bit sad. And getting her on a full fat Greek yogurt breakfast in the morning if you eat dairy, or you can have like a coconut version with nuts and seeds and berries, blueberries mainly, raspberries, like lower sugar fruits.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't have sugar, it's just like everything, having it in the right amount. So
Of course.
I would say to all your busy mums out there, love your brain, feed your brain, because it will give you more concentration. It will help you make better decisions. It will and set an example to your kids about just enjoying natural food and not overanalyzing labels and hyper tracking. Yeah, we need to learn about portion control and stuff like that, but really it's the one thing that I say, feed your brain, nourish your heart, all of that kind of stuff is so important, because it's the thing that gives us the ability to make better decisions, and good hydration as well, because we don't generally drink enough water too.
No, and that's yeah. I'm a big water drinker. I'm probably 2 to 3 liters a day in the summer. I know I work out, so I have to drink that amount. But like you said, I went to Tenerife for my mum's surprise big birthday in March, and actually when I went there, the food selection was unbelievable. And every morning we've got the people that are there with their eggs and their omelets and their cooked breakfast, and I started with some sort of their sort of muesli, and I put in my dried apricots, my walnuts, my yogurt, and it's such a nice flavor that actually I carried it on, and I still have it now every morning. But my boys started to have it and just try a little bit every now and then, so it's good. And yeah, one of the things I say to my boys, which they hate, and mum, I'm hungry, mum, I'm hungry, mum, I'm hungry, mum, what can I have to eat, mum, what can I have to eat? And actually I'll say to them, no, you're not hungry. And they go, don't say it, mum. And I say, you're not hungry, you're just thirsty. You need to have some water. And they know it's coming. They know it's coming, but it is so important. And my boys are very sporty as well. So I'm constantly badgering them to make sure that they're drinking. But I know somebody that really struggles with their children. My nan is terrible. She does not drink enough water, and she gets swollen fingers. Where she's not hydrated enough. So if she's walking, her fingers start to swell, and that's all to do with the water as well, isn't it? And not
it's the water retention. Your body's hanging on to every single bit, and then sort of
she says.
It gathers around areas, and then that can cause discomfort as well, because there'll be an element of toxicity that your body's hanging on to too, because you can't release it. But I think that the right amount of water is good. Too much water, not so good as well, because what it'll do is throw out your electrolyte balance, so your potassium, your magnesium. Like everything, it's the sweet spot and it's the dose that makes the poison. But it is really, really important. But I think, with kids, and I feel I'm not a parent myself, but I've watched the struggles that some of my friends have had. And, it's sort of like, you are their world, and then suddenly you're relinquishing control because influences come in the minute they start going to school, or even hanging out with other little friends, and maybe another parent's not got the same habits as you, and sort of like, and then you're challenged, and it's like, well, do you want some pudding breakfast? You've got to like this pudding for breakfast. This is breakfast,
Yeah. There are
Outsmart.
ways around it. Outsmart them is definitely the way.
They're wily. They're wilier these days. I feel for mums, but I think, I'm not preachy at all. And I just think to be a parent, I'm in awe of my friends that are also self-employed or coaches, and they go out there and they do a great job, and they're still bringing up a family, because it is challenging. And you know, one of the things you mentioned to me previously is, you know, what are the struggles of being a business owner? And it's like your world's just kind of thrown up in there, and you're like, well, I have to do this for the business, that for the business, but the common denominator before any profession is us, and just making sure that we've got 15 minutes, half an hour a day to land, to eat well, to breathe, and don't apologize for needing to give yourself space. But the reason why I called my business Number One Health Coach is because we're all number one, you know. And a lot of people say, oh, but I'd do anything with my kids, and I put my kids before me. But what if you're an absolute stress bunny? You know, they're feeding off your energy, they're looking at your habits, and you go, no, it's not, it's show, not tell. And when you give yourself that space and worth to go, no, I'm going to make sure I'm tip top, then you can be tip top.
Exactly. On that note, I've got a really busy week this week. I've got a few podcasts that I'm recording in the evenings as well. Last night is a football night for me, my training. Tonight's football for the boys. Wednesday I'm at a networking event. Thursday I've got training online, and Friday I'm doing a podcast. And last night I sat there and thought to myself, I'm not going to go to football tonight because I'm out so much during the week. I'm really, really busy. And then I thought, actually, no, that's my exercise. That's my one time where I can really, really giggle with the girls. We have a real good laugh, us group of mums, and I'm not going to stop myself from doing that, because if I sit at home, then I'm then going to be regretting the fact that I've not gone, and I'm going to be cross with myself. I'm going to be cross with myself the next day because I haven't done a workout. So actually, it's putting it in for me. And the boys are fine. They were at home with their dad, and they were absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever. And he did homework, so it was a win-win for me.
Brilliant. Well, that's the thing, is it's okay to say no to things, and the better we get at managing our lives, you know, you find yourself not saying no. It's just like you've got your non-negotiables in your week, your month, and it's like, well, that's what happens. And then you've got that bedrock of good stuff for yourself.
Yeah, you were saying just before we jumped on that actually we can get quite tied up into having this routine and sticking to things that we should be doing. And actually, you decided yesterday that you and a group of girls would get together because go outside of routine, and you had a great night, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think it's good to shake things up, because we're all busy, and as we all are, busy's okay, too busy's not. But we hadn't met up for a while, and I said, let's do it on a Monday. Let's just do it on a Monday night. It's a Monday night. It's a boring night for most people. It's the start of the week. It's a bit, you know, just getting revved up, and maybe a quiet one. But we sat around the table. I made loads of good food. We had a nice bottle of wine, and we laughed and we chatted, and we, you know, it was just a really nice 2.5 hours, not late. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can just be, oh, let's just make it dinner. It was easy for me. I love having people sitting around a table. I like making a bit of a fuss. And it was just lovely. And I think it's good to disrupt things sometimes and have the space to be able to go, we can do this. Or make sure you plan it out enough where everybody goes, yeah, let's do it. Because if it doesn't go in a diary these days, it just doesn't happen.
No, I totally agree. I've been trying to get catch up with our football mums and have a night out. We did the charity match on the 8th of May, and I said, right, we've done our match now. Let's do dinner. We're still trying to get a date in for 10 of us to get to dinner, and we've just said, you know what? We'll do 2 dinners, and those that can make it for both, great. Those that can only make it for one, perfect. It's fine. So we're going to do 2 instead, because, like you said, you just can't tie everyone in. Everyone's lives are so hectic, aren't they? So
you found a way around it. That's really good. And I think thinking outside the box like that is always helpful. You know, because you just go, well, if it's not going to work, let's scrap it. It doesn't happen. But that's brilliant. And then you get double dose of fun if you can make the 2.
And then they laugh at me because I was the one that suggested it. And they're like, Kirsty, but you don't drink. Why would you want to go out for 2? I said, because I don't need to drink to be able to have a good laugh. It's fine. I can go out and I can have a good laugh. They find it hilarious that it's always me. And after football, sometimes in the sun, when it's been sunny, I'm like, should we go to the pub for a drink afterwards? Why would you want to do that? Well, because we're all huffing and puffing and blowing out of our backsides doing the football that you can't actually talk sometimes. So let's go and have a chat now. So it's always me. So
I really just before you sort of jump onto another subject, I really enjoyed your post on alcohol, because we're so conditioned to socially bond over it, and can become mindless habit.
Yeah.
And I think just bringing awareness to that is giving it's feeling that sense of choice and control, that you don't need it to have a nice time, and you can choose it, and you can walk away after a glass or two, or not have it at all.
Yeah.
Have sparkling water, have kombucha. There's nothing like feeling good the next day. There's nothing like feeling good the next day. And
Yeah.
I just don't do it to myself anymore. I'll have it if I want it and I feel I can tolerate it. And I know when it's like, no, I want to feel good. I want to feel energetic, and protecting your energy is everything in this world.
Yeah. I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't stopped the alcohol. I'll freely admit that alcohol started to take control of me rather than me having control of the alcohol. And I now know that I am not one of those drinkers that could just have a couple of glasses and that's it. I'll be the one that has the 3 or the 4. Like you said, you all had a couple last night. That would be me that's getting a couple more in. So it just become, and I was exhausted all the time, and I was no good, and I had this fog in my brain, and I just thought, enough's enough. Like, I'm done. I'm absolutely done with it. And yeah, it's been the best decision I have made. And like I said, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I have so much more time and energy for my boys. It's amazing. So thank you. I'm glad that
It's
posts
great.
are going out there and people are enjoying them. And
Yeah. It's good. And this is a way of socially connecting as well. When you are doing podcasts, you are speaking to people during the day, and that's a bonding thing too, right? It is. It's nice. And it's like, well, I'll bond over a matcha and mint tea. Thanks very much.
I didn't have time. I was doing a bit of work beforehand, but I do have my water, so it's all good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's really appreciated. And I think I might get you back on in a couple of months' time and we can sort of delve a little deeper if that's all right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's been lovely talking to you, and thank you ever so much.
You too, Kirsty. Great.
Take care.
Brilliant. Have a great day.
And you. Bye.